This is Optibike's new Pioneer City. They have another Optibike Pioneer called the All-Road, and it actually has a larger suspension fork and a little more traditional high-step frame, and it's designed to, you know, all-road, right? Like go on light trails and that kind of thing. Both of these bikes are part of their Urban Series electric bike. They're a little bit more affordable. This one's like $29.99, and actually really it has some awesome like accessories, sort of like balancing going on, power. So I guess I'm just gonna jump right in, but I'm impressed. Like Optibike is a company that's been making electric bikes since about 1996, and a lot of them were like handmade in Boulder, Colorado, which is where I am right now. You know, they have the mountains and a lot of off-road riding, so it's neat to see them sort of transitioning into carrying a little bit more affordable bikes that are made for the city. So some of the features that make this a great choice for city riding or urban riding are these 700C wheels, right? So that's like 28.5 inches. They're 400 width, so it's not quite as narrow as a road bike, which is going to mean this is a little bit smoother and, you know, absorb some bumps a little bit better, but still wide. And that's gonna help you span cracks and bumps. It's gonna give you a better rolling momentum. This is what they use the size on like road bikes, city bikes and stuff. So it's great. So you've got those larger wheels, got this low step frame that's super easy to mount. You don't have to like swing your leg around the back and hit the rack. You can just sort of step over like that. So that's excellent. I do have to say I love that they put water bottle braze-ons right here for cage. A lot of bikes just don't do that. I don't understand why. I mean, you get thirsty, especially on a hot day like today, and that's excellent. They've got this sweet adjustable stem right here. You don't even have to have a tool. You just slide this down, pop it up, and then the handlebars sort of rotate and they go up and down. So this bike does only come in one frame size at the moment. It's kind of a medium, but with the adjustability of that stem and the seat post and everything, it's actually very versatile. The seat can go pretty low, so even if you're relatively short, it's going to work out all right. You got a decent kickstand. You got, of course, all the extras for city riding. Nice fenders that are actually fairly long, especially the front one, and they've got those mud flaps on them, so you're not going to get splashed on your shoes or your shins, which, you know, if you're going to work and this is your car, that's important. Got a rear rack, really heavy duty. Kind of attaches right here to the frame, and you'll notice those threaded eyelets, they're actually like welded on. So I mean, this is heavier stuff that we're dealing with, but the gauge of the tubing is still fairly standard. So you can put panniers on this thing, and they've even got the blocker on the side so they don't hit your spokes. You can put a bag on top, and that would actually conceal that this was an electric bike because the battery's on the rear here. A lot of times I would complain that it's got a rear mounted battery because that means your bike's sort of lopsided, you know, it tends to be rear heavy. It's also higher up, but in this case, this is a relatively, you know, minimal sized battery. It still gives you good capacity. It's like 37 volt, about 10 amp hours. So that's about medium, but instead of having a rear hub, this one has the center drive, okay? And that's like really the focus of this bike. That brings a lot of the weight down, brings it forward, and you're able to leverage the gears in the rear. So this isn't a motor, this is actually a 7-speed Shimano Nexus geared hub. And that's awesome. Like basically all the gears are inside. Your chain, you can see that, it only has one sprocket here on the back. So it's tight, you know, it's not gonna like rattle all around. You don't have to worry about a derailleur getting knocked or kicked if the bike tips. So it's just a really durable setup. That I like a lot. And 7 speeds is pretty good. So whenever you're in one of those speeds, you're actually supporting the motor a little bit better. Let's say you're climbing a hill, you can go to a low gear and the motor doesn't have to work so hard. If you're going fast, you shift to a high gear and the motor's going to benefit from the same drivetrain that you do as a rider. So that's awesome. And it also makes changing flats, changing tires a lot easier because you don't have like a motor with extra wires. You'll notice that this bike looks like a bicycle. It's very stealth, right? People might not even know that it's electric, especially with those panniers on the back, and just think, oh, that's a pretty sleek looking bike. And it does weigh only about like 48, 49 pounds, which for an electric bike like this with a rack isn't too bad. I think I mentioned on the back of the battery pack, there's a light, right? So that's kind of a neat safety feature. I think they might be talking about putting one on the front. You could always add something to the handlebars. That's something I'd love to see. They do have a suspension, like head shock, I guess. There's no lockout, there's no rebound adjustment, and frankly, it's more like a spring than anything. You know, it's good though for smoothing out the bumps a little bit more, in addition to those tires. You've got semi-ergo grips, a little bit fatter, decent brake levers. The front brake is 160 millimeter disc, and it uses a mechanical. And then the rear, it's like a roller brake, kind of like a drum brake, right? And then this fin actually dissipates heat, so the brake is in there. This doesn't stop you quite as well as a disc brake, but together they're fine. And you know, for urban riding, this is a great solution, and it keeps this back end even simpler, right? There's, you know, you don't have to have a separate system while I'm working there. So I think they made a good choice. Here are the wires, sort of run through the frame. I love that. The seat is fairly comfortable. It doesn't have like bumpers. There's no seat post shock absorber. I think they were talking about maybe making that an accessory. So all in all, not bad. But I want to focus back in on the drive train of this bike. Like, a lot of what we've discussed is just the bicycle aspect of it, the water bottle, all that. The motor is pretty amazing. It's 500 watt geared mid-drive, okay? And 500 watts is, you know, that's above average. Average is like 350. This thing is pretty excellent for climbing, for reaching those higher speeds. I've actually been pedaling above 20 miles per hour and still had the motor helping. And I think that is sort of a result of this being, you know, a pedelec. It's kind of a speed pedelec. There's no throttle. The only way to activate it is to choose one of these pedal assist levels. There's like 5 in this setup. It's very easy. You just, you know, hold this mode switch right here, turns on the bike, starts in pedal assist mode 1. You can go to 0 if you just want to ride it like a bike and maybe save your battery. Or again, you pick one of those 5 levels. The higher you go, the faster it drains the battery, but the more power you get. And I love it. And I like that they have this separate, you know, button pad, because you can reach that a little easier when you're pedaling. Although it doesn't quite reach. It's a little, you know, short because of this wire. All in all, very simple to use. If you're new to electric bikes and maybe just want something that's hassle-free, you got your shifter right here. You can shift at standstill if you need to, because it's a geared hub design, and you just pedal and it goes. It's that simple. So definitely enjoying testing this bike and you know, riding around on the bike paths and stuff. The motor itself is also relatively quiet. You know, I mentioned it's like 500 watt, where I'd say an average size motor is 350, so you're getting more power, but they've really upgraded it. Their first all-road bike launched in 2013, 2014, and now this is like a 2015 model right here. I think it's available, but they've refined the motor so it's got more torque and it's quieter, and again, it doesn't disturb anyone when you're riding on the trail. Like, no one really notices and questions what you're doing or whatever, and I love that. If you park at a bike rack, it blends in. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it. I should say that also the display panel's backlit for night use. It shows your battery, your odometer, how far you've gone, your pedal assist levels, and your speed. So it might be time to take it out for a test ride. Oh, and also the brake levers, you'll see there's 2 wires. This one actually cuts power to the motor, so they're taking into consideration safety. Okay, so I'm on the bike. I was gonna do a little hill climbing test. Nothing too steep. I'm in a lower gear, and we'll just see what happens. No problem, no problem. Definitely nice if you have like knee issues or something. Maybe you've got a rack full of groceries, you need that extra assist. Very satisfying and quiet, yeah. Wanted to do a bit of footage where I'm not holding the camera and kind of get an idea of what the bike looks like. Hear it taking off and dial it down a little bit. Go to the upright position. Yeah, very nice. Have a headset shock. Not bad. And the assist is, it's sort of a cadence sensing, okay? So it's not torque sensing where it's gonna sense how hard you're pushing, but in some ways that's nice because it means that you don't have to push really hard. You can just kind of lightly pedal along, and depending on what level of assist you're in, it's gonna give you more or less power. So I like it. The frame is also a little bit softer than the Pioneer All-Road, which has more of a diamond or triangle shape. And you can feel it kind of, you know, wiggle a little bit. If you're going faster, you make a hard turn and really put your weight into it. But for a city bike, the trade-off is to get that low step frame design, and I like that. I think it's worth it. So yeah, I mean, that's the Optibike Pioneer City. Really well-rounded electric bike with a good warranty and good support from a company that's been around for a while. For the full write-up on this, the specs and pictures and comments, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com.